We are used to seeing the Queen as a style icon. But what if her greatest talent wasn't fashion, but silent warfare? This is the story of how Elizabeth II used brooches not as mere ornaments, but as weapons, as armor, and as coded messages in the most critical moments of her reign. For her, a brooch was never just a ceremonial accessory. It was a historical document capable of telling the world more about strength, patience, and diplomacy than any official speech. In this video, we won't just show you treasures, we'll decode the hidden messages the Queen sent to the world. And the first of these battles, played out before the eyes of the globe, happened quite recently. The year was 2018. Donald Trump was arriving in London for his first official visit. This visit was one of the most tense in modern British history. Mass protests were being prepared in the streets, the press was in a frenzy, and the political establishment was deeply divided. In this charged atmosphere, the Queen, as head of state, was expected to maintain impeccable neutrality and extend a proper welcome to the new American president. The whole world waited, holding its breath. How would she act? What signal would she send? Then came the day of the meeting at Windsor Castle. For this historic moment, the Queen did not reach for her largest diamonds, not for an ancient relic. Instead, she chose a modest little flower-shaped brooch. At first glance, it seemed unremarkable, but as always, the devil was in the details. This brooch had been a personal gift given to her in 2011 by Barack and Michelle Obama. In the world of high diplomacy, where nothing is accidental, the gesture was instantly understood. Without saying a word, the Queen sent a powerful message. It was subtle, elegant, and mercilessly royal. Headlines exploded with talk of jewelry diplomacy and the art of trolling by Elizabeth. She fulfilled her duty, offering Trump the official welcome required of her, but with one small piece of jewelry, she reminded the world of her true sympathies and of the friendship with America she valued most. From international diplomacy, let us move to one of the greatest domestic battles Britain has faced in decades: Brexit. In 2017, at the height of bitter political debate, the Queen had to carry out her constitutional duty to open Parliament and deliver the government-written speech from the throne. That speech was entirely dedicated to the country's withdrawal from the European Union. It was an impossible position. Elizabeth, the living symbol of national unity, had to be the voice of a policy that was tearing that unity apart. She was forbidden to reveal her opinion, but silence, too, could be misinterpreted. On that day, all eyes were on what she wore. She appeared in a blue coat and a matching hat, its flowers accented with bright yellow centers. Coincidence? Perhaps. But in a world where every detail of her life was scrutinized under a microscope, her outfit, strikingly reminiscent of the European flag, was seen as a deliberate signal. And yet, an even stronger message came later. At Christmas 2019, at the very height of uncertainty over Brexit, the Queen addressed the nation with her traditional speech. Pinned to her dress was one of the most historically significant brooches in her collection, Prince Albert's sapphire. The very brooch he had given to Queen Victoria before their wedding, which became a symbol of their eternal love and enduring union. The choice was brilliant. On one level, the blue sapphire and diamonds once again echoed the colors of the European Union. On another, by wearing a jewel that symbolized the strongest and longest marriage in royal history, she silently reminded the nation of the value of partnership and stability, at a moment when her country had chosen the path of division. From political maneuvering at home, we move to one of the most delicate and explosive diplomatic missions of Elizabeth's reign, a battle where she had to confront the ghosts of centuries-old enmity. In 2011, the Queen embarked on a state visit to the Republic of Ireland. To understand the weight of this event, one must remember it was the first visit by a British monarch to independent Ireland in 100 years. A century marked by struggle for independence, conflict, and wounds that had not yet healed. The atmosphere was tense beyond measure. Any misstep, any wrong symbol, could be taken as an insult and undo decades of peace efforts. For this visit, the Queen needed more than jewelry. She needed an unmistakable message of peace, and she created one. Arriving in Dublin, she stepped off the plane wearing a brooch no one had ever seen before. It was a dazzling harp of diamonds. The harp is not just an instrument, it is the official emblem of Ireland, the very heart of its identity and culture. The choice of this weapon was nothing short of genius. A monarch whose ancestors once ruled the land arrived not with British symbols, but with the symbol of Irish sovereignty pinned to her chest. It was an act of deep respect, louder than any political statement. Combined with the historic speech she opened in the Irish language, the brooch became a gesture of reconciliation. The Irish and international press hailed the visit as a triumph of soft power. The heart brooch, created for one single moment, fulfilled its mission. It helped build a bridge across a century of mistrust. Not all battles are fought against opponents. Sometimes the most important fight is the one to preserve friendship. Throughout her 70-year reign, Elizabeth II quietly but steadfastly worked to maintain unity and warm ties within the Commonwealth. And one of her most important battlegrounds was Canada, one of the oldest and most significant nations under her crown. There, she needed to be more than just Britain's queen. She had to be seen as Canada's queen. Her chief weapon in this mission was the dazzling diamond maple leaf brooch. This jewel already carried a proud diplomatic legacy. It had been given by her father, King George VI, to his wife, Queen Elizabeth, before their historic Canadian tour in 1939. It symbolized respect for the Canadian people. When Elizabeth inherited the brooch in 2002, she transformed it into her personal bond with Canada. She wore it during every visit, at meetings with Canadian prime ministers, and at Canada Day celebrations in London. But her wisest message came when she realized that the bond must live on beyond her. In 2011, during the first official Canadian tour of Prince William and Kate Middleton, the Queen lent the iconic brooch to the young Duchess. Later, she also lent it to Camilla. With that gesture, she turned a personal relic into a shared emblem of continuity. The message was unmistakable. This connection is not mine alone. It belongs to the crown, and it will be carried on by my heirs. One brooch had become a legacy of loyalty and respect, passed from generation to generation. So far, we've spoken of jewels the Queen chose with the skill of a strategist. But the next brooch became her armor, not by design but by fate, at the most tragic and defining moment of her life. This is the story of how one piece of jewelry became the witness to the end of her youth. In early 1952, the 25-year-old Princess Elizabeth set off on a Commonwealth tour in place of her ailing father. The first stop was Kenya. At the famous Treetops Lodge, built high in the branches of a giant tree, she spent what many say was one of the happiest days of her life watching wild animals with her husband. That day, she wore the flame lily brooch, a gift from the children of southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, for her 21st birthday. The brooch, shaped as the national flower, was meant to symbolize her coming of age and her future duties to the Commonwealth. But the princess did not know that her future would begin the very next day. It was there, in Kenya, that she was told the devastating news. Her father, King George VI, had died. In an instant, her carefree journey was over. She had climbed into that tree a princess and descended from it a queen. When her plane landed in London, the nation awaited her in mourning. A young woman stepped off the aircraft in a simple black dress, and the only ornament pinned to her lapel was the diamond flame lily. In that moment of deepest personal grief, she sent her very first message as monarch. By wearing the emblem of the Commonwealth, she declared without words that despite her loss, her duty to the nation and the world now came first. That brooch ceased forever to be just a birthday gift. It became an historic artifact, the symbol of her sudden ascension to the throne.
Over the long years of her reign, the queen faced not only political struggles, but deeply personal battles as well. And at the heart of it all was her constant fight to protect the stability and dignity of her family under the relentless gaze of the world. The foundation of her reign was always her union with Prince Philip, and in key moments, she used her jewelry to remind the world of the unbreakable strength of that partnership. For the celebration of their 70th wedding anniversary, the Platinum Jubilee in 2017, a symbol of extraordinary meaning was required. It was an unprecedented milestone, a living demonstration of constancy in an ever-changing world. For the official portraits seen around the globe, the Queen did not choose a dynastic relic. Instead, she chose something deeply personal, the scarab brooch, a gift from Philip himself, given to her in 1966.
The choice was filled with profound meaning. Crafted in gold, rubies, and diamonds by jeweler Andrew Grima, whose modern style Philip admired, the brooch carried an even deeper message in its very shape. In ancient Egypt, the scarab beetles symbolized eternity, rebirth, and the force of life. By wearing this gift from her husband on their 70th anniversary, the Queen told the world the story of their union without uttering a word. It was not just a look back at the past, it was a statement of the eternal nature of their bond and of the strength it had given her throughout her reign. The final battle in our story was neither diplomatic nor political. It was the quietest and the heaviest, the struggle with personal loss under the unblinking gaze of the world. The year 2002 was meant to be a year of triumph for Elizabeth, the year of her Golden Jubilee. Instead, it became a year of grief. First, she lost her sister, Princess Margaret. Only weeks later, her mother, the Queen Mother Elizabeth, passed away at the age of 101. For the first time in her 50-year reign, the Queen faced recording her traditional Christmas message, knowing that her mother, her anchor, was gone. For that moment of sorrow, she chose not an ancient relic, but a jewel with a modern and intimate history. She wore the centenary rose brooch. This was a piece she herself had commissioned in 2000 as a gift for her mother's 100th birthday. At its center was a hand-painted image of the Queen Elizabeth rose, set in rock crystal, surrounded by 100 diamonds, one for each year of her mother's life. Wearing that brooch for her first Christmas broadcast without her mother, the Queen sent not a political message, but a dedication. It was a silent gesture of love and remembrance from a daughter. At the very moment when she had to be the strong monarch her people needed, she allowed herself to be simply a daughter in mourning, and she shared that grief with her nation. The brooch became a symbol not of power, but of human vulnerability and eternal filial love, something understood by anyone who has ever felt loss. As we can see, for Elizabeth II, a brooch was never just an ornament. It was her voice when she could not speak, her shield in moments of sorrow, and her sword in diplomatic battles. In studying her collection, we are not just looking at the history of jewelry, but at the story of one of the greatest reigns in history, told in the secret language of diamonds. Which of these messages struck you as the most powerful and deliberate? And had you ever noticed the Queen's hidden language before? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like more historical investigations like this, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. There's much more to come.